July 16th is International Drag Day, so let's talk about an iconic drag performer and pageant winner who you might know from her cameo in Tu Wong Fu, Catiria Reyes, better known as Lady Catiria. Welcome back to Yesterqueers. My name's Amanda, and I'm a public historian of queer history. Catiria Reyes was born in Puerto Rico in 1959 and was assigned male at birth. She and her family moved to New York City when she was a child, and by the time she was 19, she was performing in Jackson Heights, Queens as an Eris Chacon impersonator. Chacon, who is known as the Puerto Rican bombshell, was a massively popular entertainer in the 1970s and 80s. Catiria said in later interviews, "I was still a boy then, but I looked good and they loved me." By the early 80s, Lady Catiria was performing at a gay club in Hell's Kitchen called Escuelita, which was a pivotal nightclub for Black and Latino queer people for almost 50 years. Catiria was a trans woman doing lip-sync burlesque performances that were unlike anything any other drag performer was doing at the time. She never spoke or sang on stage and rarely talked off stage when she was in full Lady Catiria drag. She let the music, both in Spanish and English, and her body communicate everything she had to say, and audiences loved her, calling her an enchantress. She reigned as Queen of Escuelita for almost 2 decades. Eventually, Catiria got into the pageant circuit, and Chicago's Miss Continental was what she described as Miss Universe for drag queens and transsexuals. The Continental pageants are still around, by the way, and bigger than ever. Lady Catiria won the first ever Miss Continental Plus pageant in 1993, a spin-off pageant for performers who weigh more than 225 pounds. Unsatisfied with having only that title, Catiria set her sights on the main pageant. She hired a personal trainer, went on a diet, and set a strict preparation and rehearsal schedule for herself. All told, the training and the surgeries and the costumes cost her $20,000. It was while Catiria was in Mexico getting liposuction in preparation for the pageant that she learned she was HIV positive. At that time, HIV was still often a death sentence. Not only were minority groups subject to even greater healthcare disparities than they are now, AZT, which was an effective treatment, had also not turned out to be the magic bullet that we'd hoped, and we were still almost 20 years away from PrEP being approved by the FDA. Catiria kept her diagnosis private and continued with her rigorous training schedule. She won Miss Continental on Labor Day weekend 1995, becoming the first and only contestant ever to win both titles. The year that followed her win was a grueling one. As the reigning Miss Continental, Catiria's schedule was packed with performances and appearances, and her health was failing. She's quoted as saying, "I was so sick that I couldn't carry my own bags. I'd lost 30 pounds. People were talking about how thin I was, but nobody knew." As her reign was coming to an end, Catiria decided to tell her own story rather than let people speculate. Plus, she knew that she could use her platform to address misconceptions about living with HIV and AIDS. She commissioned an $1,800 custom gown, a stunning black mermaid style with a rhinestone AIDS ribbon for a collar. She also reworked her crown to be red to match the ribbon. And when Lady Catiria performed as Miss Continental for the final time, the woman who had never used her voice on stage mixed a song called "It's Never Too Late" with her own pre-recorded message. In it, she revealed that she had AIDS and talked candidly about her fear and confusion. She thanked numerous people, including her husband Jimmy, for their love and support. And she asked the audience to remember that ignorance is weakness and we should make no room for that in our lives.
I then thought I was dying of AIDS, but I now realize I'm not dying of AIDS. I'm living with AIDS because you loved me.
Catiria Reyes died just a few years later on May 3rd, 1999, of complications related to AIDS. She's buried in Puerto Rico. That's it for today. As always, more information, including sources and further reading, is available in the usual place.